Good morning, everyone. We will call the Executive Subcommittee of the State Building Commission to order. The chair detects a quorum, so I think we are ready to go. Ann, have we received any requests for public comment?
We received no requests for public comment.
Great, thank you. Ann, would you please introduce the first item then, please?
Certainly, I'd like to request approval of the consent agenda items 1 through 9, which have been reviewed and recommended for approval by subcommittee staff.
Move to approve. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, this consent agenda is approved. And next item, please.
Our next items are for the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, and we have Executive Director Jason Maxidon to present.
Maxidon.
Thanks.
Director Maxidon, you're recognized.
Members of the committee, thank you for allowing us to come in and present to you today. I'm here on behalf of the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency to request approval for the acquisition of approximately 62 acres in Lauderdale County. This property is located on Highway 51 in Covington and is owned by Beverly Coates, Linda Durham, and Jane Embry. And TWA intends to purchase this tract at fair market value using the 25-26 year Wetlands Acquisition Fund. This property is on the state's wetland priority list and has been approved for purchase by the Commissioner Ag and myself pursuant to TCA 1114-402. The primary purpose of this acquisition is to replace the existing public boat ramp located in the adjacent TDOT right-of-way. The ramp is in poor condition and no longer meets public access needs. Acquiring this property would allow TWA to construct a new, safer, more functional boat ramp along with an improved parking area. The tract is also strategically located next to the Hatchie National Wildlife Refuge. That property is owned by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and they've expressed a strong interest in eventually adding this property to the refuge and fully supports TWA's plan to acquire it and construct the access improvements. Once the federal approvals are in place, TWA would then sell the property to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, but we would retain an easement to the long-term property or to that boat ramp access area and the parking lot. So today, we're seeking the committee's approval to move forward with this fee simple acquisition, sir.
Move to approve. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Director, I have a couple of questions for you, if you don't mind. So
Yes,
this is you're acquiring this property to build a boat ramp and then to sell it to the Fish and Wildlife Service, correct?
Yes, sir. There's already a ramp there. It would be to improve that access area and parking lot there. Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. Do we have any contract or anything with the Fish and Wildlife or anything that says that they will buy it from us?
We do not currently have a contract, just a verbal agreement with them.
Okay.
They would have to do due diligence and get the survey and everything done on that.
How much will this tract cost us?
It's approximately $200,000.
All right. And so obviously you're going through a lot of kind of gymnastics to improve this boat ramp. Why is that so important?
This was actually a member request. Senator Paul Rose requested this in his district. And so what's going on there? This thing is right on Highway 51. You all may remember many years ago, there was a bridge that collapsed in Covington, Tennessee. There were several Tennesseans that were killed there. And that's where this is located, is right there off that TDOT right away. And what happens is when the Hatchie River gets out, it really restricts the area that folks can park. And it becomes a safety issue. And Senator Rose is saying that several of his folks there are saying we need to expand the parking area where folks can safely park. Because right now what they're having to do when everybody starts using the area to fish or hunt, they're having to park along Highway 51, and it's making it dangerous. It's a 4-lane highway there if you're not familiar with that area. And so as they do that, he's just trying to make it safer where they have a larger parking space and a better access area to use there.
So you would not sell that piece of land back to the Fish and Wildlife, or you would keep that?
Yeah, we would. And let me go back and correct the amount. We think at the end of this term, after we would sell it to Fish and Wildlife Service, TWA would have about $20,000 in that would be what we would have net in that after Fish and Wildlife Service buys that.
After they buy it, but you don't have a contract with them?
No, sir, we don't. And we would want to retain an easement, to that parking lot and that ramp for Tennesseans to use.
Right. And as we've talked about before, my concern is that you're using, I think, is it wetland acquisitions money to do this? So my concern has been that you all have been talking about the fact that you need money. You need funding to continue to operate. You've got a couple of bills in the General Assembly now. You brought fee increases. This administration has made a proposal to put $10 million. And so the questions that I have is, I think you've spent about, I've got the numbers, but there's a lot of money going into into capital, into land acquisition, those types of things. And the way you ought to structure it comes out of your operating costs. And so the only hesitation that I really have, I don't necessarily think this is a bad idea. My hesitation really is around the fact that that the same money that you would use for this is going to this instead of to salaries or other uses for the funding. And that's really the question that I have. So would have these funds expand your responsibilities, but at the same time, they diminish your ability to function and do all of your normal operating costs. Am I mistaken in that?
Well, a couple of things.
Okay.
I won't say you're mistaken, but if you remember, Chairman Watson put a floor on what we could spend. So he wanted to hold $6 million in the Wetlands Acquisition Fund.
In the Wetlands Acquisition Fund,
So,
right.
so really, and we're working hard to try to spend that balance down. As you know, Director Thurman wanted us to spend it down, and it's helped. We're thankful that the General Assembly freed that money up because now we can spend it on law enforcement where we couldn't before. So we're spending that on operational costs. But he left a $6 million floor in there. He said, I don't want you to spend down. I want you to use this $6 million for critical purchases. And we, I think on the list that this is important mainly for safety purposes. The other thing to add to that is, our wildlife fund is the one that's struggling. That's where most of our money is spent. We can actually use the boating fund on things like this. Now, we would want to do the actual acquisition of the property because it makes sense to buy that property with wetlands funds. But when we actually do the construction of the ramp, some of that work, we could do that with boating funds. And that fund is not struggling. If you remember, the boating fund is actually doing well. The wildlife fund is the one that we're having the most issues with, is struggling on the end.
Yeah, and I've shared some numbers with you. I agree that the fund's not struggling. The wildlife fund is where you're concerned, what you're concerned about.
Yes, sir.
Let me see if I understand what you're saying. The 200,000, which is not a huge number in the instance of this, but the 200,000 is helps you spend down the wetlands fund to the 6 million, or is it part of the 6 million?
No, we could use the 6 million. And so currently what we're doing now, we are spending that money down. We're trying to get it spent down based on what Director Thurman had said. So we spend about 15 to 16 million on maintenance operations, and then we're spending around 12 to 14 million on law enforcement. So we've been trying to spend down to that 6 million. But once we hit that 6 million floor, Chairman wanted to leave that in there for wetland purchases like this. So we could, continue, unless something changes with the General Assembly, the way that that's structured, I think we could continue to buy small tracts that are what we would consider something of conservation value or importance to be able to carry on our mission.
So what you just said is interesting because I didn't realize that. So this actually fits the traditional definition of wetlands under this funds.
Yes,
That this fund was set up to do.
that's correct.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. I didn't realize that. I do have a concern about these things as we've talked about. So what I'd like to do is if you would, I know you've got some other things coming up, including the next one that we're going to talk about, I think also has a capital expense on it that's going to also come out of operating funds. So I'd just like to ask if you would, when we have things coming before either this committee or the SBC, if we talk about you or somebody on your team, I'd like to talk about those beforehand, just to be sure that we're moving down the pike in a good ways, because as we've talked about, I think it's unfortunate that your capital and your land acquisitions come out of the same fund that your salaries do. And that makes it difficult, I think, for you all to do all the things that you feel like you need to do, and yet at the same time, cover all of your expenses to make sure that you're solving over the long term.
We're going to work hard to change the way that works, sir, based on feedback. So
Yeah.
we're going to work to create that different. One of the things that's been different for us is we have been operating out of the same fund because we don't come to you all for capital projects. That's kind of new. That's something that we've been doing new over the last 2 years, and you've been gracious enough to be able to give us some money to work on those. So we're going to pull those out and be coming with, each year we're going to be coming with different capital projects and then manage the rest as operational funds.
I think that's smart to divide your different types of funds. That's the way most other agencies do that. So I think that'll help you, and it'll help the transparency as well in the long term.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Those are all my questions. I apologize, committee. Anybody else?
You took all mine.
I'm glad I had that foresight, sir. Thank you. All right. Is there any other questions then? No other questions or comments? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. That's it. Thank you, Director. I think you have one more, right?
Yes, sir, we do. All right, so the next one is to request approval for the ratification of an existing lease between the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for the Stones River Hunter Education Center at J. Percy Priest in Davidson County. This lease covers approximately 146 acres and are located on the east of State Highway 71 and north of US Highway 109 in Antioch. It's a 25-year lease running from May 1st, 2023 through April 30th of 2048 with no rental cost, as the use is mutually beneficial for both agencies. So funding associated with the operating of the site comes from the 25-26 TWR operational budget, and TWR has continuously occupied this property under agreements with the Corps since 1998. A new lease was executed with the Corps in February of 2025, but it was not brought before the State Building Commission at that time. This action will simply correct that oversight because the landlord is a governmental entity. Public advertisement of the lease was not required. And so looking ahead, TWA intends to bring forward a capital project to repair a berm there. Basically, this is a shooting berm and additional shooting lanes on the property. And that work's anticipated to be funded again from our 25-26 operational budget. As you all know, we are cleaning up a lot of things in TWRA. There will not be any more leases out there. So we apologize that this one didn't get before this body. So we've corrected those. Shouldn't be any more that you'd be seeing that leases are out there. Our team has actually looked through all those and we've corrected that. So today we're asking for the subcommittee's approval to formally ratify this existing lease.
Motion on that item.
It's been moved and properly seconded. The only thing I'll say is just, again, thank you for your explanation of that. If we could talk about the capital project before the SBC meeting, before you all bring that to SBC, I'd appreciate that.
Chairman, let me make one point on the funding on this. It may be different. And so one thing about the operational cost of this, I think it would probably interest you. We get Hunter Ed money. We get our federal apportionments. You're familiar with the Pittman and Robinson money. We can only spend that money on certain things. And it's 90-10 money. So they pay for 90% of that. And so 10% of that would come out of TWR's operational funds is what that would be.
To your point, Director, maybe there's just some communication pieces that need to be, that we need to talk through and understand that will help a lot.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Any other comments, questions? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes. Director, thank you so much.
Yes,
I
sir.
appreciate you being here. I know you had other things you want to do today, and I very much appreciate you taking the time to do
Thank
this.
you, sir. Members of the committee, thank you all.
Thank you. All right, and next item?
Next, I'd like to request approval of the minutes of the Executive Subcommittee meeting, which was held on February 23rd, 2026.
Move to approve.
Been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions related to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. The minutes are passed. Thank you. And next item.
Next, I have a number of report items that were approved by the Office of the State Architect in accordance with the SBC bylaws, policies, and procedures. These include one capital improvement with a total project cost of less than $100,000. 3 capital projects with a total project cost between $100,000 and $1 million. 2 revisions in funding for a capital project with no change in the total project budget. 1 bid that exceeds the approved MAC with no change in the total project budget. 1 CMGC award, 2 acquisitions of land and fee, 1 disposal easement, and 1 acquisition by lease. Those are our report items.
Great, thank you. And if we will acknowledge receipt of those items. And the next item on the agenda, I believe, is the selection of designers, and Secretary Hargett has a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 3 items today. As always, these come as recommended by the respective state procurement agencies. We try to balance geographic preference as well as capacity. Number 1, Pellissippi State Community College Athletics Softball Complex, Loesch and Associates, Inc. Number 2, Pellissippi State Community College Strawberry Plains Campus Access and Parking Lot Repairs, Orchard Hills and McClement, Inc. Number 3, Tennessee Technological University Tennis Complex, Johnson Crabtree Architects. That's the motion.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions for the Secretary? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Next item, Ann.
We have no further business for the commission.
I bet there's a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Chairman. Excellent.